Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. I want to, in this video, give you guys 3 of the main issues that I'm finding being repeated over and over with survivors. Okay, so basically 3 large pitfalls that survivors usually fell into once they got into that toxic relationship, okay? Or basically the relationship with the narcissist, all right? Number 1 on my list, falling in love off of a little bit of attention. So perhaps this is the survivor that went into the situation feeling lonely, maybe even in a state of being desperate to be in a relationship, not complacent in solitude, not complacent with just themselves, not fulfilled so much. So then this narcissist comes and gives them a little bit of attention, and they're just falling in love off of a little bit of attention. All right. A little bit of attention is just that, a little bit of attention. But when you're operating off of a certain energy or from a space of loneliness and desperation even, you're going to move differently. As opposed to someone who wants to have a relationship, but don't need to have a relationship. When you're needing it so bad, that's when we start bending, on our standards and accepting less, so to speak, and rushing things even. And then that's when we magnify things. This little bit of attention, you're blowing it up because you weren't getting any, or you weren't getting it from the source or the person that you wanted to get it from. So yes, a pitfall of falling in love off of a little bit of attention. All right. Now, yes, while it's true that the narcissist does love bomb, that's still a little bit of attention in my eyes. Okay, if somebody love bomb me for a month, that's a month's worth of attention. How much of that 1 month is equals to my whole life? That's a tiny, tiny fraction of my lifetime. That's still a little bit of attention. That's still a little bit of time put in. And I've said this in other videos, but yes, relationships go through honeymoon phases, even ones that are destined to fail, that are going to flunk right after that honeymoon phase ends. And that's what should be happening in a narcissistic relationship, because they're going to love bomb you during that honeymoon phase, but they won't be able to sustain it. All right. So please, we have to be mindful about falling in love over a little bit of attention. People haven't put as much time in with us. We just have to be careful. And on a side note, I'm not going to say that there aren't instances where 2 people just click and the relationship takes off. And it, pretty much stays that way. Like you met your soulmate and they're really the one for you. And the consistency, it just never changes. They were the one. This does happen for people when their time actually comes. But it's going to take you to be able to, gauge a whole lot of factors about the healthiness of a relationship over time to be able to see that. All right. And once we get down to number 3, I'll, make a larger connection to my number 1 as far as falling in love with a little bit of attention when I get into attachment. Because once you work on that aspect of yourself, you'll be able to pull away as needed or pull in as needed, So number 2 on my list, I have being manipulated into being in a position of proving yourself. Okay, so now the person is playing off of your lower self-esteem or low self-esteem? Are you feeling less than? And then this creates what? A lopsided relationship. A lopsided relationship. So that's another pitfall that I certainly, and this is what the narcissist wants, because they're takers. So if they can manipulate you to stay in that state of just being the giver, and then having you feel like you're less than, so that you're giving and then subconsciously feeling like you don't really deserve to get much in return, or you're not requiring, even if you feel like you should be getting it, you're not asserting that. So they're still getting their way. All right. So, that's another pitfall right there, being manipulated into just proving yourself overly. Because actions do speak louder than words. So how many actions will it take for that narcissist to actually get that point? And then it goes both ways. And it goes both ways. And that's the bigger issue. Because if they're constantly making withdrawals from you, that's why you're feeling drained at the end, because they weren't actually investing in you. They weren't actually investing in you, and you weren't actually being reciprocated. All right. So no more lopsided relationship survivors. And do I mean, oh, you have to make as much or more money as me, or I put out the dishes today, so you got to do them tomorrow. I'm not talking about a tit for tat, so to speak. It means that while I'm fulfilling your relationship needs, you're fulfilling my relational needs as well. And everybody's getting satisfied in a healthy manner. Because when we talk about relational needs, if you're working out of desperation and you just don't want to be single, your needs may be a lot more simplified at that point. And then that could create an atmosphere for a toxic relationship. All right, so that's something to also consider. What are the needs that you were just trying to get met? Because I remember, with one of my narcissists, the person the secondary source that he promoted to the primary source, when I cut him out, this chick only just cared about having a warm bed. She had a severe soul tie to this narcissist, and that was her main agenda, having sex. So, of course, he could satisfy her and please her, I guess, in that sense. All she wanted was a warm body. That's all she wanted, for the most part. So, and she was working out of her toxic space at that point. But that was just, an example. Because the more that you actually want, as far as having a truly rich relationship that's not just built around the flesh, okay, you're going to see that the narcissist isn't emotionally mature enough to be able to consistently maintain that relationship. Even if they fake the funk and the love bomb portion, they will drop the ball as they run away from responsibility. And they're not actually attaching in a caring, loving manner to begin with. So it's going to eventually come out in their behaviors, all right? But if all you wanted was a warm body, they're just going to manipulate you with that. And I've made videos with that. That video has right now over 75,000 views, where I talk about 10 reasons why the narcissist has sex with you. Feel free to check that out. So the third thing that I have here on my list is premature attachment. Some people have prematurely attached to the narcissist without the narcissist even proving themselves. Like, sure, you've proven yourself, but did the narcissist actually really prove themselves? And then when we go back to that number one, falling in love with a little bit of attention, they love bombed you, and that was like enough. And you got prematurely attached to this person, and then when it was time to cut the rope, you couldn't detach because you were so in love with that love bomb phase. And you were hoping that, you know, that would come back to the relationship, that maybe you were just having a hiccup or a bump in the road a lot of times. But once we learn how to mind our attachments to people, we'll have the emotional maturity to say, okay, well, I feel more comfortable with attaching more to this person. Okay, now I see that I have to detach from this person. Like, you'll be able to put yourself first and protect your energy and your resources by saying, you know what, this person is now toxic for me. I have to take some steps back. Emotional maturity will allow you to do that. But someone else that's operating out of these other things that I listed, it's going to be harder for them. It's going to be harder because once you get yourself emotionally mature, they're not going to even be able to trauma bond with you. You won't be able to tolerate that. You're going to nip it in the bud. Your boundaries are going to be to a certain level. Your expectations, your acceptance of certain behaviors is going to be nipped in the bud before that can really be created even. And it'll be like, wow, I really thought this was a different person, but now I see that you're not. You're being largely inconsistent. Ooh, I got to take about 100 steps back. Oh, you know what? I'm done. I'm not going to emotionally invest further into this relationship. You've shown me what I needed to see, or you have red flagged me in a major way, so forth and so on. And you'll be able to begin to make that detachment for your own sake. But if your own sake isn't to really have a healthy relationship and just to have a relationship, or whatever that lower vibrational and lower minded desires, basically. All right, guys. So, you know, just watch out for those pitfalls, all right? Falling in love over a little bit of attention, because that has happened to some survivors. Being manipulated into a lopsided relationship where you are the one proving your worthiness and they aren't because you are feeling less than. And then prematurely attaching yourself to someone and then not being able to detach when the time comes. Okay? These are the pitfalls, guys. All right, so if this video resonates with you, you can go ahead and hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe to my channel, of course, over 300 videos to help you understand this thing called narcissistic abuse. And just, you know, toxic relationship psychology, increase your emotional maturity, helping you with some shadow work and some self-reflection, because that's the main thing. You know, I'm not trying to be mean in this video. I'm just trying to keep it real. And hopefully, you know, the people listening to this can keep it real with themselves as well, so that there won't be any repeats in the future. If we be honest with ourselves to say, you know what, I was tripping. You know what, I need to be better in this area. You know what, I was slipping when that happened. You know what, I did have a hard time detaching even when I found out this person was toxic. The trauma bond had been created because I allowed some toxic situations to fester and continue and to cycle over and over. And then I was knee deep in it, neck deep in it, over my head in it, you know, trying to get out of it. Yes, I started the relationship with lower self-esteem, and I had a pattern of it perhaps, and I was constantly trying to prove myself through good acts and kind deeds, trying to show someone that I was worth the little bit of attention that they were giving me, because I didn't want that attention to stop, because I didn't want to feel lonely and I didn't want to be single again. See how all of these things are just connected? All of these things are connected to one another, actually. Because if you're already falling in love over that little bit of attention, you're already putting them on a pedestal, which means you're already feeling less than, which means you're already going to be prematurely attaching to them. Okay? All three of these pitfalls are just all connected. And chances are, if you've done one, you've done all of them. You've done all of them. All right. The good news is, though, you don't have to stay in that place. You can always make a shift. Like you could decide in 1 second, you know what? I don't care what I just got off the phone with the narcissist and I was still doing these things. I'm going to make a shift. I'm going to end this. I'm going to stop that. I don't want it to be that way anymore. You really can do these things. And this is what I've talked about in my other videos when I did the self-confidence boot camp video, for instance, and a few other videos along the lines, where some people, you know, they have a hard time saying no, asserting themselves. Life is, you know, time we never get back. We really can make a shift and say, you know what, that's the old me. That's going to be over. I'm going to work on myself. I'm changing this. I don't care who likes it and doesn't like it. That's living, and that's living for yourself. But a lot of survivors, before they're survivors, they are living for the narcissist. They're living for the toxic people and everybody else in their lives. Okay? The year is coming to an end, at least.